So after months of doing Rick and Morty videos, only once did I talk about the infinite realities or infinite timelines or infinite whatever. Now the term infinite has become a reoccurring word in my theories. Of course he's alive, infinite timelines, remember? Or according to infinite possibilities, Rick did kill himself, deeming your theory false. Everywhere I go I see the word infinite. Now infinite possibilities was first put in place in season 1 episode 6, Rick Potion number 9, where Rick leaves his current timeline and goes into one similar to it, except he and Morty die. Ever since then, the term infinite has been seen in episodes like season 1 episode 10, Close Rick Counters of the Rick Kind, or season 3 episode 1, Rick Shank Rick Redemption. So that makes this whole thing clear and understandable too, right? Not really. You see, they do mention infinite realities in episodes like Rick Potion number 9, Rick's D Minutes, Close Rick Counters of the Rick Kind, and so on. Infinity is a lot, like never ending a lot. So that means in infinite possibilities, anything that can happen will happen, right? Technically, yes, but when you apply it to just Rick, it's basically taking a chunk from infinity. It's still a large portion, but it is also technically finite. Infinity realities exist, no doubt, but that also means there are realities where Ricks don't exist, has died, or have invented the portal gun. So you take the Ricks who have the portal gun technology and are still alive, and you got something called the central finite curve. I will go more in depth about this later on. No doubt though, that shit is still big and might as well be called infinite. So we can confirm we have a shit ton of Ricks, like enough to make a game out of it. But there's other points in the show that would rather create this plot hole. I want to credit a commenter, Demon God Jr., on one of my videos for this idea. So basically, when thinking about infinity, there is no end. So applying this to Rick and Morty, there are no ends to the different timelines Rick exists in. However, in Rick Potion number 9, Rick mentions that they got 3 or 4 of these tops when referring to hopping timelines in spite of explaining the infinite timelines in the universe. Meaning, if the universe were truly infinite, then Rick would be able to hop dimensions anytime he wants without any limitations. But he can't. So what does this all mean then? Well, we all know the infinite timeline theory, where every decision creates a new timeline. For example, say you plan to jerk off because you're bored, or you decide not to because you are in no fap zone. This creates realities where you jerked off and ones where you did not jerk off. It's as basic as it sounds. But a part of my theory revolves around another theory I have made. Yo dog, I heard you like theories, so I put a theory in another theory. The theory is that these infinite timelines are all in sync, but it all started with the first existence of Rick. Ever since then, timelines have been made where they would still go on, but also end off. It's a basic theory, and I thought I'd draw it up to make more sense of it. Alright, so this is the diagram I drew, and it's a basic theory that is built upon multiple theories, but let's just go on to it. Alright, so my theory starts with the first Rick, basically the first existence of Rick, and basically it's like a sperm. And so there are paths that this sperm goes through. It's where it lives and where it dies. So you can tell that all the red dots are where the Rick ends up dying. So the blue paths are where Rick's choices are made. And so it could go into this path, where it can go to that path and then die, or live on, die, or live on, live on, live on, live on, die, or live on, live on, die, or live on, live on, live on, live on, and so on. You get what I'm saying. I also believe that when they do travel dimensions, then it's all synchronized. It's not they're traveling from this dimension to this dimension, because that's technically time traveling, right? So basically what they're doing is they're going to this dimension to this dimension, or to this dimension. And technically, again, it's not just here to here, because the time is constant. So basically they'd be going here, it'd be going from here. As they're looking for other dimensions, they'd be here, and then they'd be traveling to wherever the synchronized place is, but wherever they first started. So it could be like right here. It won't technically be from here, point A to point B, because time is constant. And so they're not really time traveling forward. It's just time is moving as they travel dimensions. And so obviously this isn't the accurate depiction of the infinite timelines, because infinite timelines, you would see there are many choices that you can see play out. Now, I'm going to draw another diagram later on in the video, so this is just what I want you guys to keep in mind in your head. So with my diagram in the mind, note that some of those timelines had an end but with different outcomes as well. This creates a subset within the infinity which technically becomes finite. This finite is surrounded by other finites which would explain the central finite curve. So we have point A where the first Rick was born, then we have point B where Rick dies. And I don't just mean a Rick, I mean when all Ricks die. Granted though, this may not end because Rick may find the secret to immortality like in season 1 episode 1, or a device that can simultaneously kill every Rick across realities. I want to use the Citadel of Ricks to demonstrate a plausible plot hole within the series. What we do know about the Citadel is that a few thousand of Ricks banded together to form a Rick Council against the Galactic Federation. Now ever since they were destroyed and removed from the Rick-made dimension, people have said numerous times that there are infinite amounts of these Council of Ricks. I disagree with this because you can say that every time a choice is made, it has created another timeline, which means that every time the Citadel has made a decision, it creates another timeline. However, I want to believe that there are limited outcomes that are made. I believe this firmly because there is no mention of another Citadel. Surely if there was another Citadel, the Council of Ricks would have been notified or would have found out and possibly merged together. Besides, Rick has mentioned that a few thousands of them, meaning whoever wanted to join this government, have already joined, deeming another government irrelevant. So although I did mention that there can't be another Citadel of Ricks, there can be a few other Ricks who will have the same idea and form another Citadel of Ricks. Note, in season 3 episode 1, we saw many Rick and Mortys die, but not necessarily all of them, just only the main ones like some soldiers and the council themselves. And they did mention that a few thousands of them joined up, so maybe a few hundred of them have decided to reform it. The Galactic Federation is not completely destroyed either, so this is the reason to believe some Ricks might still be out there, ready to rebel against it. So right now, you may be tripping your mind and are very confused from what I am saying. So to recap the last few minutes, Rick has mentioned the infinite possibilities / realities where different types of Ricks exist. But to contradict that, Rick has also stated that jumping realities for replacement is limited, about 3 to 4 more tops. If it is truly infinite, then they should be able to live in as many dimensions as they want without any limitation. I use the Citadel of Ricks to describe the plot hole in the show. When I say plot hole, I don't necessarily mean it ruins the show, but it ruins some continuity to it, which then puts plot holes in storylines like Rick synchronizing to kill himself or Rick finding the Szechuan Sauce. If you are curious to know how the Szechuan Sauce is a plot hole, well, like many people have said, couldn't Rick have just gone to a dimension where they had the Szechuan Sauce? To make the plot hole more clear, if infinite realities do exist, wouldn't that mean Rick would be able to just hop in any dimension he wants whenever he feels like it without a second thought? And this doesn't just apply to Rick C-137, this applies to all Ricks with Porlagon technology. Surely they would find their perfect reality that would have no problems for them. I'm not denying the show's actual use of infinite realities across the multiverse because I believe that there are infinite Rick and Mortys. Before we go on to the next point, infinity is a lot. You can take the numbers 1 and 2 at face value and assume that it isn't much, but you go closer and you can see that there are infinite numbers between them, like 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 to 0.0234567 Number Files does a better job at explaining this, so you can take a look at it in the link below or in the info cards. I mention this because this is basically what we are doing for this theory. The numbers 1 and 2 are sets in the infinite amount of numbers, but within 1 and 2 itself is another set of infinite numbers. I mentioned above that we are taking the point where Rick exists in the multiverse, thus creating another set of infinity, which could possibly be the central finite curve that the Citadel of Ricks are talking about. In the Number Files video, they also mentioned that infinity is not a number, but an idea, the concept that it goes on forever. So this next point is a long shot and may very well be easily shot down, but I'm going to go all out on this video in hopes of constructing a better theory in the future. What if the Rick and Morty universe follows a different type of infinity? It still follows the same concept of infinite timelines, but these infinite timelines are actually finite. This would mean that anything that could happen can't really happen. I mean, let's take the part where Rick was synchronizing to kill himself at the end of season 2 episode 3. Now, the part where Rick would kill all realities of himself is mentioned by the creators in the DVD commentary of season 2. They did say they think that is what it would do, but I'm going to assume that in a more darker ending for Rick and Morty, that would be the choice they would go with. So with that in mind, if there are truly an infinite number of realities, wouldn't there be a reality where Rick did successfully kill himself? This would then kill all realities of Rick. but we are watching episodes where other Ricks exist. Furthermore, Season 2 Episode 10 Wedding Squanchers to Season 3 Episode 1 Rick Shank Redemption can definitely fit this criteria as well. The Ricks at the Citadel are able to track portal guns, which means there wouldn't be infinite amounts of Rickus Ricks who were captured by the Federation, and within those realities, the Federation would have captured the portal gun formula, thus making the Federation able to travel to different dimensions or even find the Citadel of Ricks and put a stop to them. But none of those happened, and there was no mention of a mass Rick genocide or even another Rick captured by the Federation. So to shorten things down, although there are many choices Ricks can go through, I feel like there are limited paths that these choices create. We all know that there are similar universes as seen in Rick Potion number 9, but Rick mentions 3 or 4 tops. So what I'm assuming for my theory is that some paths are only so similar that he has a limited amount of universes he can hop into. As a result, some choices either have no effect for the current timeline, have a very limited choice, or just die off. Here was something I drew up to maybe help understand what I'm saying. Alright, so here's another diagram that I decided to draw. So it's called the infinite not so infinite theory. So basically we have the Rick, alright? Let's pretend that this Rick is making a decision here. Oh shit, I forgot to draw another decision. Alright, so that should make more sense with it. Alright, so pretend that this Rick has 2 decisions to make, alright? Here he can go on and jack off, and here he cannot jack off because he's a proud Christian man. So let's just say that he decides to jack off, and it leads to 2 other decisions here. One that he gets satisfied and one that he doesn't really. And so what I'm trying to say here is that some choices have no effect on the path. So like right here, you know, he didn't get satisfied and so on. Whatever happens next results in the same path, which means it interlines. See, in my previous diagram, I says that it just continues on, and maybe there's slight differences, but it doesn't have an effect on the timeline, so technically it wouldn't be as infinite. Then we have a limited amount of choices, so again, like I say here, 2 choices. Obviously, he won't have 2 choices, you know. There could be times where he has to cook, and so he doesn't have time to jack off. He's not Christian, so he wouldn't jack off either way. But regardless, he has limited amount of choices, and these limited amounts of choices again could lead to different choices, or it could lead to choices that lead to no effect and just continues on. And then again, just like the previous theory, some die off, so it just goes from here to here, and it just dies off, and it doesn't really, either he dies while masturbating or he continues on to live life. And so that's kind of the theory that I wanted to point out. It's a long shot and could be easily taken down, but I want to just throw this out there just in case someone has a word for it, so I can just build on upon it. I know for some of you right now, your brains are now just fried and feel like someone just shoved a dick in your brain, and now you're just confused on how you got here. Let's look at it this way. No doubt there are infinite amounts of Ricks across the multiverse, but there are also a finite amount, because unless one Rick knows the path to immortality, then all Ricks in existence die off, creating the end of that set of Ricks. The problem that we have with this is that in the show, they mention infinite realities. Anything that can happen will happen. In some episodes, there are paths where infinite realities can come to play, like how there were Ricks who gave the portal gun formula, or Ricks who successfully killed all realities of themselves. However, for watching the same show, you know that none of these events happened, but with the infinity theory, they should have. I agree with the idea that there are infinite Ricks, but there is a limited amount of infinite Ricks. My first theory was that the infinity started with one Rick. After that, different paths that either led on to another or end at the spot occur. This would support the basic infinite universes theory. My second theory, however, was to somewhat defend the plot hole, as in thinking maybe the Rick and Morty universe is following a different type of infinity, as in the infinity theory we portray isn't being followed in that universe. So I came up with a theory that maybe some choices are limited, some have no effect on the timelines, or simply just die off. This could explain why Rick says he only has 3 or 4 more universe hops to go, because if it were truly infinite, swapping dimensions wouldn't have any limitations. So that gives me the idea that there are limited choices that these paths can create, as well as choices that have no significant change to the timeline. These two theories, however, are not the point of the video. These are theories to add some support to the main point, which is the plot hole within Rick and Morty. This isn't just an average plot hole that can be easily filled to fix up, but it is a plot hole that has had me scratching my head numerous times throughout the show, the infinity plot hole. My problem with this is that infinity would mean the possibilities are endless, which means different universes with different outcomes. However, some storylines put into Rick and Morty can be easily broken up with this infinity realities bit. Like I mentioned, the Rickest Rick story arc or the Rick genocide contradict this, creating some sort of paradox in the show. This video may seem like I'm nitpicking the show and pushing Royal and Harmon's buttons, but that is not my intent. I simply want to address and give my thoughts on the matter, as well as theories and opinions on it. I will say this though. In Rick Potion number 9, after going into the replacement dimension, Rick mentions infinite timelines of themselves, but he also mentioned the reality where Hitler cured cancer. The follow-up line to that was, "Don't think about it." This could be a subtle jab onto this whole infinity plot hole bit and let us not think about the other realities and infinite versions of themselves. Instead, they just want us to just chill, have a beer, sit down and watch the adventures of Rick and Morty without having to think about the other shit. But then again, I made a video about Rick's depressing backstory, so I shall continue to overthink shit because that's what I do. Alright man, so that was a long ass video and probably something that was confusing as fuck to the most of you. If in any time you need help with understanding parts of the video, I advise you to watch it till the end, then ask me your question. Maybe even watch it a second time. It'd be very annoying to tell you it was explained in the video. Anyways, this was something I enjoyed making and it was in my head for 2 weeks now. It didn't take too long to write the script, but it took 2 weeks to build up my theories. So I am very grateful this video is now out. Speaking of time, it is time for phase 3 guys. If you do not know, I love being organized with my videos, and so starting with this video, phase 3 has officially begun. And hopefully this new and improved tweaks to the channel seems a lot better than phase 1 and phase 2. But with that being said, it will probably take longer for more videos to be produced because a lot of time comes into planning, writing the scripts, editing the final touches, and then uploading it. And not to mention, college has just begun. Please end me now. If however you wish to help, you can support me through Patreon. I heard the rewards tier is pretty good, like a special Discord server for exclusive members as well as behind the scene updates. This outro is actually going on forever though. Thank you so much. Thank you for the marvelous support you guys have showed, and I hope to see you guys in the future. You've been a lovely audience. My name is Jay, and I'll see you guys in another dimension. Peace out.